things which you run, which you play around with. Is things. This is something for running things, for things in progress, for application software that you're currently using, for a game that you're currently playing, for an assignment that you're currently doing. So when you do something, when you have memory, when you use memory, you imagine it as something that you're going to use. And when you want to use something and you want some kind of result, when you do something with regards to that thing, you want it to be fast, right? And so, whereas when you store something, you want it to be secure, you want it to be permanent. You don't want it, of course you also care if it's fast, but you also want it to be kept securely, right? So you want it to be permanent. You want to lose it over the long run, right? So memory and storage are two rather different things, right? One is used to keep, right? Keep. The other is used to run things, right? And so when you want to run things, you want it to be fast. So this is, you can of course write like the opposite of which in each column, right? Permanent as opposed to temporary, right? Fast as opposed to slow. It is relatively slow, right? We also have other things. For example, you will have more of this and less of that. Why? Because you will have lots of things that you store, but you won't run them all at once. Actually, you can run them all at once. Actually, no, you can't. But if you do run them all at once, you might go crazy, for example, right? So you have less of this, right? Large and small, right? Let's put that into perspective. How much storage do you have in your computer, right? So nowadays, for example, if we talk about phones, right? Phones, smartphones, it's regular to have somewhere between 4 gigs, 32 gigs. This is with regards to smartphones. Computers are even more. Computers, you might have 500 gigs here, right? Whereas RAM, you might have you might have like maybe less than one. You might have 256 meg, right? To let's say 2 gigs. Some have 3 now, right? This is the amount we have, right? But still, if we talk about RAM chips and hard disk drives, this is more expensive. This is more expensive compared to that, right? Relatively cheap and is relatively expensive. Why do I say so? If we talk about PC RAM, 2 gigs of PC RAM is almost equivalent in price of 500 gigs of storage. Around that much. Maybe for 2 gigs, you can buy, if you buy 2 gig sticks, 1 gig and 1 gig, you might be able to buy a 500 gigs hard disk drive. So that's how they differ, right? Anyway, when or if we talk about storage, we need to talk about 2 things or 2 items inside storage which actually controls it. The first one being the recording media, or some text we call it storage media, right? Storage media. This is where your data is kept. I'll just get rid of this. regards to the hard disk, basically we have the disk itself, right? We have the disk itself, right, which is hard, so it's called hard disk, right? Then we have the mechanism. We have some kind of mechanism that can actually manipulate the hard disk, right? We have the read-write head, which maybe I should draw using a black pen instead of blue, right? We have the read-write head, which will read to and write, which will read from and read to the hard disk, and then we have the box, the casing, which the hard disk comes in, right? So all of these black stuffs would be the storage device, and then the blue stuff is the recording media, right? But the hard disk is special in the sense that the recording media and storage device actually comes in one console, in one device, instead of two, the way DVDs and DVD drives do, right? So hard disk drives are different. The same goes with USB thumb drives. It's just one thing altogether, right? So that is with regards to the intro to memory and storage, and a little bit of intro on storage, difference between memory and storage, and a bit of